Welcome to Tactical Talk. This is Zain Khan. Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, and the US are to begin talks aimed at reviving the Afghan peace process. Officials from the four countries will meet in Islamabad, Pakistani government sources have said, in what they hope will be a first step towards resuming stalled negotiations and eventually ending the 14 years of fighting Taliban insurgents. The Taliban are not expected to attend the talks. The militant group have stepped up their violent campaign in the last year to topple the government in Kabul, which has struggled since most foreign troops have left at the end of 2014. Today to discuss the future of the Afghan peace process is Brigadier Asif Haroon, a senior geopolitical commentator and also a defense analyst. Welcome to our show, Brigadier Asif Haroon. This is Zain Khan.
Thank you very much, Zain Khan. It's a pleasure indeed for me.
Let's start off with the first question. What has been the reason behind the ups and downs in the Pak-Afghan relationship?
Oh, well, if you just go through the history of Afghan-Pakistan relations, they have not been, a very friendly right from the start, I would say. And if you recall that when Pakistan was created, Afghanistan was the only Muslim country which had not recognized Pakistan. And then, it has always been leaning towards India or the erstwhile Soviet Union. And towards Pakistan, it has not maintained a friendly, good neighborly stance as it should have been. And the reason was that one was that the Durand line that had been made into a dispute. They didn't accept it as a border between the two countries. And then, as you know, that Pakhtunistan strength was also started from Afghanistan, and in this, India also had a role to play in it. And then also, you know that wherever there was insurgency in Balochistan, the Baloch rebels, rather than going towards Iran, they would always opt to go towards Afghanistan and find a safe haven from there. And they were duly supported in, all the insurgencies. And even now, the ongoing this insurgency or the separatist movement, that, it is a well-known fact that the Afghan soil is being used for the support of the BLA and BRA there. So that's been the background. I would say that it was only the Taliban regime from 1996 to 2001 when Pakistan and Afghanistan were really very close, and we could safely say that the western borders are safe and secure, but that could not be said otherwise. Now, after 9/11, when Afghanistan was occupied by the United States and its Western allies, and in that Pakistan's force has played a part in that, the Afghan soil has been used against Pakistan for the covert operations. In that, of course, RAW was the leading agency, assisted or helped by other 5 agencies in which the Afghan NDS was also involved. And that had created a two-front threat for Pakistan, one from India and another from the, unfriendly western border from where the covert operations have been going on. And this process has not finished as yet. Things are still going on. As you know, that the off-border terrorism and the attacks, particularly, in the Peshawar school and the Badaber and such like things, they have been happening from Afghanistan side. Now, the change that came in the recent past was when the Karzai government, which was most unfriendly and rather hostile towards Pakistan, and he was very pro towards India. The change came when the unity government came into being in 2014, and in that there was a power sharing arrangement arranged by the United States, in which President was Ashraf Ghani and Dr. Abdullah. He was the chief executive officer or the prime minister, whatever you may say. Now, in this also the arrangement was not very happy because Dr. Abdullah has always been pro-India, and he still is. And Ashraf Ghani, he opened the, he created a thaw, and there was a very good, change in the relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan from November 2014 onward. But then, as you know, that this honeymooning also didn't last long, and in just a matter of 5-6 months, again, the strains started to appear. So these have been, the ups and downs between the two countries, which is unfortunate because, after all, we are brother relations, we are next door neighbors, we have cultural, religious, ethnic, blood relations, and Afghanistan is a landlocked country. Majority of its imports and exports are through Pakistan, and Pakistan has never imposed any sanctions or, tried to block their, trade routes and that kind of a thing, like India does as far as Nepal or Bhutan or, those other peripheral states around India is concerned. And then, we have been hosting 3 million Afghan refugees since 1979. And we have been rendering in whatever possible way, assistance. And even today, we are all out, to have, to restore peace in Afghanistan, because as far as Pakistan is concerned, we consider that peace in Afghanistan is very essential for peace in Pakistan. Both are interlinked.
Brigadier Asif, why was the peace process disrupted in July 2014?
Now this is interesting. You see, what happened was that, as you had mentioned in your preliminary introduction, that there was war on terror. Pakistan was under occupation of the foreign forces, and this war carried on from 2001 October till today, I would say. But in this war, Taliban were the winners. They defeated the occupation forces and forced them to vacate Afghanistan, and they had to abandon Afghanistan without achieving any of their objectives in December 2014. Now only a small 12,000 to 14,000 residual force is there locked up in their 8 military bases, merely to give a backup support to the Afghan national security forces. Because had this resolute force not been there, I have a feeling that by now Taliban may have overrun the country. Even now they are in control of 80% of Afghanistan, and they have shadow governments, I think, in almost all provinces of Afghanistan. So they are definitely, have an upper edge, and they are better poised. And it is not the Afghan National Army or the police and even the resolute force. They are not in a position to defeat Taliban. Now, this is a factor. And that was the reason that Obama changed his policy, and previously the Taliban were called as terrorists, and he changed the wording for them and termed them as insurgents fighting for their, the freedom of the country. And so there was a change. And then he had opened the peace talks in 2011. And things were carrying on, though office was activated and all that. But those things somehow, didn't carry through, for the reason that the Taliban were having two conditions. One, that all foreign forces should leave and leave them to settle their affairs. And secondly, the constitution, which was tailor-made by the United States, it should be reverted back to their own Islamic system of, running the government, including their Islamic laws. So they were their two principal conditions. And this is how the Taliban movement under Mullah Umar had, survived and carried on. They had fought and they had won. And that's how it is again, I would say a very unique thing that throughout these 14 years, Taliban remained as one entity under one supreme leader, was accepted as the Amir al-Momineen, not only by the one Taliban, even by the Pakistani Taliban under TTP, whatever they had been. So that being the background, once the ISAF as a whole left and only a small force had been left behind, and they are not in a position to do it, the unity government is having its own problems because there is a power tussle between Abdullah and Ashraf Ghani, and ENSF, they have their own not many problems with discipline, desertion, and they are not in a better position to fight the Taliban. So the stock process, that was, given more weightage. And in this, Pakistan was asked to, to play a lead role and, convince the Taliban to come on the negotiating table and talk. So it was with this background that Pakistan played its role and convinced the Taliban to come on the negotiating table for talks. Whatever the parameters that were not fixed, but the first talks took place on 7th July in Murray, and I would say it was a great step that had been taken, and Pakistan rightly took the credit for it, for arranging it, and convincing the Taliban to come there. And the next talks were scheduled for 31st July 2014, and in that a major breakthrough was expected to be achieved. In the first meeting, the United States and China sat there as observers, and Pakistan and Taliban, in which Haqqani Network representative was there, he was also there on that. So 7th July, and then for the next 31st, on 29th, they had come here to take part in that. And then on 29th, the news were published first by the BBC and then by the one government National Directorate of Security, saying that Mullah Umar is dead, and he's dead since 2013. And then a lot of spicy stories were, floated around to malign Pakistan, to malign Mullah Mansoor, who was the de facto commander. And then also saying that Mullah Mansoor is responsible for the death of Mullah Umar, and it was said that he died in 2013 and in hospital in Karachi. So all these stories suddenly, which came up on 29th and 30th, they achieved their objective. One, that the talks were disrupted, and 31st July talks didn't take place, and then Mullah Mansoor became controversial, and third, the division took place in the Taliban, and fourth, Afghan-Pakistan relations again got strained. Particularly after the failure of a disruption of the talks, when Mullah Mansoor, wanting to reassert his authority as a leader of Taliban, he started he gave more heat to the spring offensive and achieved a lot of successes, particularly in the northern Afghanistan. And then later, of course, the Kunduz battle, which rattled the unity government and the Afghan National Security Forces, because it was a very big victory for them. Kunduz is a very big, largest city, I would say, in northern Afghanistan. And northern Afghanistan, of course, is supposed to be their main strength as far as the northern alliance is concerned. In that, this was their victory. So this upsurge of the Taliban, again, annoyed Ashraf Ghani, and Ashraf Ghani, till then, who was friendly towards Pakistan, he also then started to speak the language of Karzai and started blaming Pakistan for their failure and saying, that we are not controlling Afghanistan or the Taliban, or the North-Waziristan, which was, supposed to be the last bastion of the TTP, where Haqqani Network was also there and all that. They thought that, it is because of that base that Afghanistan is unstable. This is what the Americans used to say, and the same story, the unity government also sold it to their own people and to the world, that it is because of Pakistan that we are not controlling them. They are not controlling cross-border terrorism. Haqqani network is very active from North Waziristan into eastern Afghanistan, right up to Kabul. And so, therefore, the situation between Afghanistan and Pakistan became very, very tense. So these were the circumstances, and in this, who had played the role of, disrupting talks? It was the spoilers, and the spoilers were led by India and none other else. And who else supported were with India or were the spoilers? Karzai, Saleh, he was the ex-NDS commander. The elements within the Afghan National Security Forces, which were pro-India, the NDS under Nabil, he was pro-India, and even the parliament, which is again, Northern Alliance heavy, or from the communist regime earlier, hardly one or two mujahideen. So they are all, tilted towards India. They ganged up and they again pressed and pressured Ashraf Ghani to change his stance towards Pakistan. So that is how, these peace talks, got derailed. Right?
Brigadier Asif, why Ghani has relented to patch up and restart the peace process dialogue?
Well then, as far as Ashraf Ghani is concerned, you asked that what reasons impelled him to resume talks with Pakistan when earlier on he had changed his friendly stance to unfriendliness, is that Ghani is not politically strong in Pakistan since he has no political party or a political base in Afghanistan. But when you look at others like his challenger, Dr. Abdullah, he is politically strong. Because most of the time Ashraf Ghani has spent abroad in the World Bank and all that. The last elections that took place in presidential elections in Afghanistan in 2014, and those were two-phase, he was pitched against Dr. Abdullah. And in the two-phase election, in the first round, if you recall, in May-June 2014, Abdullah was way ahead of him. And everyone thought that he would emerge as a winner. But in the second round, things turned in August-September, and Ghani became the winner. But Abdullah rejected the outcome, saying that the elections were rigged, and as such a deadlock took place, and ultimately John Kerry had to come and resolve it, and a unity government was ultimately formed in September 2014, and Ghani became the president, and Abdullah the chief CEO or the kind of de facto prime minister. But Abdullah has not reconciled to it. Both have now 50% share in the power centers, and there is an ongoing power tussle between the two. So all these things, have made Ghani's presidency disputed, which erodes his overall authority as far as governance of Afghanistan is concerned. The other disadvantages that the Ashraf Ghani has are, first, that the non-Pashtun heavy parliament and the Afghan National Security Forces are pro-India. Then Karzai and the ex-NDS chief Saleh and even the current one who is now resigned, they are anti-Pakistan and pro-India. So with these drawbacks, when Ghani tilted towards Pakistan from November 2014 onward, he came under multiple pressures inside the country. The only development that could have given him strength was making Taliban agree to peace talks and to share power. Pakistan's across-the-board operation in North Waziristan starting in June 2014 and laudable successes achieved, and Pakistan's assurances to Kabul that it will extend all possible help to stabilize Afghanistan made Ghani to lean on Pakistan rather than on India. He preferred to come closer to the immediate neighbor rather than the far-off neighbor, which in fact was a correct decision. However, he could not sustain the internal pressures, particularly when Taliban stepped up their spring offensive and carried out deadly strikes in Kabul and elsewhere. He therefore started to change his tone towards Pakistan. He was told by spoilers repeatedly that peace talks with Taliban arranged by Pakistan will give definite edge to Taliban and Pakistan, and as such the position of Taliban in Pakistan will get stronger and that of Afghan government weaker and marginalized. So when Pakistan managed to arrange the peace talks in Murree on 7th July 2014, as I had already discussed, in which the US and China's representatives sat as observers and Taliban, including Haqqani's representatives, took part, a breakthrough had been achieved. Scheduled talks, as you know, on 31st July would have further paved the way towards political settlement. That meeting was disrupted by spoilers. Thereon, Ghani's stance became more unfriendly and he began to speak Karzai language, particularly when Taliban intensified their strikes in all parts of Afghanistan, including Kunduz victory and now the successes achieved in Helmand province. These acts have overall weakened the position of unity government and the Afghan National Security Forces that had wishfully hoped that Taliban would get weakened after their internal rifts, factionalization, and leadership crisis. The position of chief patron United States is also dismal because of its failures in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and Syria. Afghanistan has become a big distraction for the U.S. plan to shift its strategic pivot from West Asia to Asia Pacific. U.S. is therefore desperate to stabilize Afghanistan and install friendly government so that it could, pull out its troops from Afghanistan by end 2014, if not earlier. As such, the U.S. pressured both Ghani and Modi to mend fences with Pakistan and to restore peace in Afghanistan. Therefore, Afghanistan has once again agreed, Ghani has once again agreed to reciprocate Pakistan's friendly gestures and is willing to extend full cooperation. Sacking of the NDS chief Nabil was a step in that direction to restore confidence. He will have to show greater resilience to thwart the anti-peace spoilers and to remain focused to, strike a power-sharing agreement with the Taliban. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Brigadier Asif, what is the scope of the Quadruple talks?
Well, as far as the scope of the Quadruplet talks are concerned, I would say that the mere entry of the two heavyweights, the United States and China, it has lent considerable weight and strength to the Afghan peace process and would help in thwarting the designs of the spoilers, who were desperately wanting to disrupt talks. One round of talks, as you know, in Islamabad have already been held, in which broad perimeters were worked out by the representatives of Pakistan, Afghanistan, United States, and China. And next round is scheduled on 18th January, as I know. And it's not likely that Taliban representatives would be taking part in that meeting. And if they do come, that will be a very welcome sign. Pakistan has urged upon Afghanistan government to shun their policy of stick and instead offer carrots to lure the Taliban to talks. However, Pakistan agreed with Kabul that those preferring war over peace will be sidelined and if need be tackled. I would like to emphasize here that the key to success in Afghan peace talks hinges entirely upon Taliban, who are presently tactically in a commanding position by being in control of 80% of Afghanistan. Their position has eroded a little, as I had earlier discussed with you, due to internal rifts, but Mullah Mansoor is still in command of the largest and most powerful section of Taliban. Yet, the 36-year war in Afghanistan, starting from the Soviet occupation, has certainly fatigued them, and the 3 to 4 generations have got affected. They also want the war to come to an end. but the ending must compensate their huge sacrifice.
Brigadier Asif, how important is the role of Pakistan within the peace process?
As far as Pakistan's role is concerned, there should be no doubt that Pakistan is in a position to play a major role in removing the internal differences, but cannot possibly force Taliban to, do the way they would like to, particularly when the U.S., the Afghan government intentions are not very sincere, and there are elements of doubt in that. The U.S., China, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all are today wanting peace in Afghanistan for their respective reasons. The U.S. wants a friendly government in Afghanistan and get out of it and concentrate toward Asia Pacific. China wants to develop the China and Pakistan corridor, which is a must for it, and for that stability in Pakistan is very important. As far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan definitely needs peace in Afghanistan to ensure peace in Pakistan. And Afghan government itself also wants peace for its continuity. So the stakes of all, these members of the Quadruplet talks are very high. And possibility of the four states-led talks making a headway are brighter than it has been before. While India has been sidelined, Pakistan cannot be possibly set aside and will remain in the driving seat of Afghan peace talk, since Taliban are only relying on Pakistan and none else, and possibly to an extent to China.
Thank you so much, Brigadier Asif Haroon, for being in our show. It was a pleasure having you on Tactical Talk.
Same here. Bye-bye. Thank you.
This was Brigadier Asif Haroon, a geopolitical commentator and also a senior defense analyst. He was giving his analysis on the revival of the Afghan peace process. Until the next episode of Tactical Talk, this is Zain Khan. Take care and goodbye.